Is it recording? Hello, everybody.
Yeah. All right.
Welcome to podcast number 855.
Today we're talking about early Led Zeppelin, specifically Led Zeppelin 1 and Led Zeppelin. What was the second one?
Yeah. Led Zeppelin 1.5.
So are you familiar with the history of how Led Zeppelin started? I just know like a vague version of it.
I've heard like stories, but I've never really looked into it specifically. But I'm pretty sure that John Bonham was like some sort of like factory worker, and then he like did drum lessons in his spare time.
Okay, that's a detail I did not know. Weren't they like the Yardbirds, or like a version of them?
Well, I think Jimmy Page was, but I don't know about the rest of the band.
I think they kind of turned into the Yardbirds.
Okay, and all of them were in it, or
I think Jeff Beck might have been in the band.
rest in peace.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Jeff Beck. And Crosby died today. David Crosby.
I saw that. Yeah. That's horrible.
Yeah. I mean, horrible. He's an 80-year-old man.
It's a calamity. He lived a long, beautiful life.
It was in a plane crash. It was horrible. No,
yeah, but
I don't think it was in a plane crash.
I feel like all of the 60s artists are really... they're getting up there. They're starting to drop.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
he was
really
81. Paul McCartney's in his early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Keith Richards is still...
Robert Plant.
Yeah, Zeppelin is old. Zeppelin is very old.
John Paul Jones looks old as fuck.
Yeah, when I saw him make that appearance a few months ago, he did look... I mean, he played fucking well. And he probably got the biggest applause of the night.
Of course.
And
he's the biggest legend of them all. He kind of looks like the bass... Like, he can't, like, support a bass anymore with his body.
Yeah, basses seem to be heavy. Sort of like how Jimmy Page's shoulder is like... His shoulders are slanted. Yeah. Apparently because of, like, carrying a Les Paul. Who knows?
Yeah, that's what they say. I believe it.
Yeah,
those
I guess so.
Guitars are heavy, and he was wearing it like all the time.
He's a scrawny
Is he Japanese?
guy. Yeah, he's Japanese.
He's like the only like Asian like
rock star. Yeah,
that's like not like known for being like an Asian rock star. Like he's just like a rock star who happens to be Asian.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm like I feel so sure. But like I'm pretty sure he looks Japanese.
I think he's like half or something.
Yeah. yeah. But yeah, so hardcore Zeppelin fans are probably pretty upset because this is pretty like standard, like I guess Zeppelin news. But dude, I have not watched any of those documentaries, since I was like 13.
Yeah, and also like. Yes, there is a lot of hardcore Zeppelin fans, but like, let's be honest, like, I'm not even trying to be like, oh, I was born in the wrong generation or anything like that, but like, I don't know a ton of people that like really respect like Led Zeppelin. I think like in the way that like they should.
In the way that they should?
Like the Beatles, yeah, you hear about it all the time. Like you see their shirts everywhere, but like Led Zeppelin's a little like fading.
Yeah. I feel like I see bumper stickers. Maybe the most of...
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the symbols. But yeah, I don't really meet too many people that let the lead out.
Yeah. It's like interesting. I don't know. I think like the Beatles versus today's music, like there's a lot that's like timeless and it shaped today's music and like it transfers over. But like since rock is like dead, like we could just say rock is dead now. Like I feel like if rock was not dead and it really flourished in this generation, then like Led Zeppelin would be like as big as the Beatles for people of our age, like in their 20s. But since music went in like a different direction, like people don't draw the line like from their favorite artist back to Led Zeppelin. I think there's like a massive gap.
Yeah, it could just be for the time being, because 10 minutes from now, the world could feel differently about Led Zeppelin. But
I'm going with the hot take: Led Zeppelin is underrated.
Yeah. Well, like if you were just to compare it straight, like let's say the Beatles or something,
especially the fucking Eagles
music. Well, I have some opinions about the Eagles. We'll talk about that a bit later. Maybe in another episode we could talk about the Eagles and get into the Eagles. But Led Zeppelin has a lot of style, and they very much show that on the first. That's why I like them. That's why I like the first album, because like they're all very good at their instruments. They all play very confidently in their parts, and they have a lot of fucking style with like Robert Plant.
Yeah,
he's like fucking really filling him. Yes, so much fucking Jimmy Page.
Yeah,
nobody plays guitar like Jimmy Page. John Bonham, fucking. So much groove hitting those, like I'm pretty sure, at least from videos I've seen of like that early stuff, the early albums, like the drums are like massive, the toms are like fucking massive, and he's just like hitting away on them, and he's just so good at drums.
Yeah,
but like modern music has, let's say the past 7 years or something, since like 2015ish, at least, like quirkiness in like bedroom pop is like kind of what has been, and like being cute and like trending on TikTok, like being like like having quirks and like
basically the antithesis,
which is like not what Zeppelin, like 20-minute guitar solo, into like these crazy, but like all music is very just like no guitar players are good, they're just kind of awkwardly playing guitar. So that's why I feel like they're not as like relevant among, like, you know what I mean?
It's true. Like I guess like the artists that do have that kind of swagger that like maybe could be comparable to Led Zeppelin is something like this is gonna sound so boomer, but like something like Travis Scott or something like that. Like somebody who's like going out there, like fucking getting the crowd hype. Like they have their own style, like their own show. Like, so there are elements of that, but the music is so like opposite of like what Led Zeppelin is, that like there's not a lot of like overlap between their fans, or like it's not like seen as like an influence. But I will say this, like there was a time when they were worshipped as like the biggest influence, and it was like the 80s with like hair metal, and it was like shit.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if people, I feel like, were at least like pretty conscious of it in like the 2000s. There was like this weird thing in 2000s rock where there was like this 70s, even like the late 90s, like 70s weird like revival. Like
what bands though? Like,
okay, so from the earliest thing where I think this music came out in the late 90s, it's not really a song I've ever liked, but it was almost just like aesthetically 70s, that Blind Melon, okay, and that's like kind of where it started. And then as far as like old school, that 70s show was like a fucking hit show.
Yeah, or
and
like
then,
Freaks and Geeks.
The Strokes like very much have their own, they're more quirky, and like especially with like rhythmically, they're not like Led Zeppelin at all, but it was like kind of like revival, like old school rock. And what's that the song, Are You Gonna Be My Girl?
Yeah,
like that.
That sounds cool.
The White Stripes really fucking big, which is not. Well, Icky Thump is like a straight up like Zeppelin-esque.
Yeah, I would say I would say the White Stripes actually like are more pretty comparable to Led Zeppelin in a lot of ways.
Big, I guess the bluesy like aspect of like the rock stuff,
DIY, like garage type, like fucking grooving and shit. I think Meg White played a lot differently than John Bonham, and like, obviously, like Meg White is like a great drummer, but like John Bonham's like the GOAT. So it's like they just like played in a really different style. So that's the only thing that like throws me off. But I think Jack White like captured a lot of the essence and swagger of like Led Zeppelin, like tastefully. I'm not gonna compare them. I'm just gonna say like he like took some of that like tastefully.
Oh yeah, I mean most definitely. And you know he has like 1,000 different influences that you could kind of point to, like as far as like early blues and like you know like very DIY, very you know drums and guitar and fuzzy sounds and all of that. But yeah, the blues singing and all that. I was gonna say another band, but it left me. Oh no, I was gonna make a comparison. So if you're making those comparisons, like you know with Jack White, and then you look at a band that other people will say has been heavily influenced by Led Zeppelin, Greta Van Fleet. So Jack White is like influence. Yeah,
band.
Dude, I get. Isn't that strange how they've just been controversial for sounding like Led Zeppelin?
when you copy someone, of course it's going to be controversial. Especially
I just don't get like how they got so big.
Yeah,
if, like,
exactly. It's one thing to copy someone, and then it's another thing to like actually be big.
Where like people are unironically going to go see that. The dads are like really into it. Yeah, my whole thing with like the Greta Van Fleet thing, and if like you know whatever, if you want to be a fan of them, go ahead. But there are people like going to Greta Van Fleet or like listening to it and stuff who haven't like gone through like the Zeppelin catalog. And it's sort of like, why like listen to a band that's like biting them if like you haven't gone through all like those are the like
right,
you know, that's all the good stuff.
Really? I think more of it's just like nostalgic for people who like are Led Zeppelin super fans, and they probably listen to Led Zeppelin all the way to the show and then all the way back to hype themselves up. I just feel like it tickles some people's funny bones of Led Zeppelin. I guess it would be comparable to like if there was a band out there that like took like what the Beatles did and like made like original songs of it, but they're all like very Beatles-ish. I don't know if I would hate it, actually.
Tame.
I get. No, I mean,
the thing is, like,
sort
Tame,
of.
in the same way of Jack White, where you hear the influence, but
it's much more tasteful.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't see the point in a band that would like take like the exact style and recreate it, because like
yeah, you just
not
end up making it
better,
worse. Yeah,
it's like if you were like, oh, I need to like start a trap music career and make songs like Travis Scott, it'd be just kind of just like a waste of time.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. I guess this is my takeaway, and my thing with Greta Van Fleet is like, it's fine that they exist. It's cool that they love.
They have a pulse.
Yeah, it's cool that they love Led Zeppelin. Like I love Led Zeppelin too, but like if you're going to basically do almost exactly what they did, you're just gonna make it worse. Like you're gonna just do the same thing but worse. Like, is that really what you want your career to be built on? I feel the same way about like Polyphia and like Animals as Leaders. It's like, okay, you're just doing what Animals as Leaders did, but you're making it worse. Like,
yeah, I haven't really listened. I know a band you're talking. The guy shows up on YouTube all the time.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, especially because I'm not like super into like Animals as Leaders. So the fact that there's like just like another one.
Yeah. It's like I didn't like the first one.
Yeah. Like, and you're not like, it's like those musicians are so good. We're not even talking about Led Zeppelin. We'll get back to the
Who cares?
But yeah. Like they're so good at their instruments, but like they don't write good songs. So that's like, I don't know why I would want to listen.
I would say Animals as Leaders writes good songs. They're cool.
They had some catchy ones on that, whatever. What the fuck was that album called? Something in Motion.
Oh, yeah, the last one? It wasn't the last. I think it was like 2 months ago or something. I don't know. I don't follow them enough, but
yeah,
I used to like them a lot. I mean, they're still really cool. They still come out with cool stuff.
Yeah, they're good. Tosin is selling hella guitars, it seems like.
What?
Tosin, he has like guitars now. Abasi guitars. They're called Abasi guitars.
Oh, he made his own guitar company.
Yeah. I think it's like pretty popular. I think John Mayer has one.
They're probably nice. He always had cool guitars.
They're fucking crazy looking.
Yeah. They always look like a piece of like driftwood that like you made into like this really nice guitar, and it's like minimal in like all the right places. I don't know. It's really weird, but it looks cool. But Jimmy Page's guitar.
Dude, fucking Jimmy Page.
His
Oh, that was another
neck
thing. I was gonna rant.
SG.
Yeah. So
that thing's badass.
We haven't mentioned any songs, so we'll talk about I'll talk about this album as a whole, basically. And I guess go into some songs. Well, it just opens up with a fucking banger, like "Good Times, Bad Times," one of the most referred to Led Zeppelin songs. You know, if you're a fan, you know this song. All anyone ever talks about is John Bonham's fucking kick drum on it. That's all anyone ever says. Play the song. You can't miss the fucking kick drum. You need to listen to the kick drum. The kick drum's
listen
insane.
to how he goes. He did that with the single pedal, but
yeah, he did it. Fucking amazing.
That was amazing.
Yeah, great.
The intro, I think, is so Led Zeppelin. It's so iconic. It's so like, I can't even imagine hearing that for the first time and like Led Zeppelin 1 only being out. You go to the record store, the fucking guy who really knows music at the front or girl is like, hey, you know, check this shit out. And then you fucking pick up Led Zeppelin 1, you go home, you put on your vinyl, and the first thing you hear is just bam it. Yeah. Bam it. Like, holy shit.
Very in your face, lots of style. It's very like not UK, because usually UK bands are like grooving like this.
Yeah, like they would have something that goes like. But
yeah, because this is like we're the still opposite in the 60s. Of that. We're like leaving the 60s right here. But Zeppelin kind of like brought rock into the 70s, I guess.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think they were the kings of the 70s. They defined what 70s rock, especially the heavier rock, was going to sound like, and
kind of defined rock stars in general.
Yeah, and I mean, this is just like, I mean, Good Times, Bad Times. It's just it has an iconic intro. It's their first song, but it's really like an intro to the band as like an energy, and it just like starts off as explosive as it, you know, fucking keeps going through their whole career.
Yeah. And then right after that, I mean, another very famous Led Zeppelin song, "Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You." This is one of the songs that got me like into like rock music, like in general.
For sure.
I don't think I had ever I didn't know the name Led Zeppelin. I think I saw someone playing a cover of it on YouTube or something, then looked the song up. After I, listening to it still like gives me chills. It takes me back. Yeah, one of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs, masterpiece. I mean, that 1-2 punch right there. Both the songs are very unique.
Yeah, and it's almost hard to put them into perspective, because like I've just been hearing these songs for my whole life and I just know they're fucking legendary. But like, those were the first 2 songs they ever put out. I mean, holy crap! Like, I can't even imagine. Like, I wish I could erase it from my memory just so I could, fucking listen to it for the first time. But
they're like fucking 18. They're like 19 or something.
Holy shit! I can't even. The vocal performance on "Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You" is just so cool. I mean, Robert Plant really carries that one. I mean, they all carry it in their own way, but he really makes that song.
Yeah. I mean, just I don't even know what they were thinking like after making it and like listening to it.
I don't know. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like some gospel things. Like the way he sings is like rock, super rock, but and
super
melodic.
American.
But yeah, it's like American and like American
soulful.
Gospel, soulful, like in certain ways. Like he, I feel like he really tried to like bridge that gap, and like he's kind of the only person to do it like really well.
Yeah, just so much confidence and fucking style, and I don't know. I don't have much more to say about this song. It's pretty straightforward.
The riff is fucking heavy. Probably one of the heaviest riffs ever written.
Yeah, it's not even. Yeah, there's no like chorus. I guess maybe that one part. I don't know. It kind of goes into a few different parts. When he goes to calling me back home, and then the da 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 da.
Yeah, I would say the chorus is like when he's like, babe, dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, but I mean, I like this album because it's pretty straightforward. There's overdubs and stuff, but I mean, it's a very like raw feel, almost like. I mean, they sounded pretty similar live. Obviously, it would be more raw live because of like lack of like overdubs and stuff like this. But this is just like they seem very excited as like performers on the album to like kill their parts and like groove well with each other and like the Jimmy Page guitar tones all over this thing are just ooh. That's 60s.
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, like.
And he produced this whole album, right?
I know he produced most of the Led Zeppelin stuff. I'm sure he co-produced this.
Yeah.
But, another thing, we're talking about fans of Led Zeppelin, fans of Jimmy Page guitar playing, like, they will buy, like, a Les Paul, like
their exact gear.
Yeah. And, like,
there's a lot of drummers that do that, too. They'll just buy, like, a Ludwig, like a Vista Light. Like, big boomy cymbals.
Yeah, like a Marshall like half stack. And then they don't like, and he uses so many different types of tones on the album. That's what I like about him as a guitar player. And any like good music artist, it's not like this one thing that he has. He's using different tones and textures all over. And nobody that ever covers him ever gets it right. They always have like the most bizarre fucking overdriven, distorted tone when they're covering these songs. But like he's really pushing these amps that he's playing out of. They're like amps that can't do a lot, but but they're being pushed, and it's just getting like that like crunch. He even like hits like fuzz a few times, and it's just I love it.
And
it's
the fact
great guitar
that
playing.
he knew all that shit like in the 60s when it was just like really kind of a newer type of technology and style to be able to get the guitar to sound like that is really cool.
Yeah, this is the first time you're like guitars are getting very, very like big sounding. Like every year they're able to do more.
Yeah, and you could tell too, like with his playing, especially like on the heavier stuff, like some of those tones are like impossible to get unless you're like turned up to like 9.
Yeah, that's one thing that's been somewhat lost in this. Like, every guitar player playing direct, and you're not getting those crazy.
It's like too clean. Yeah, it's like too clean. That's kind of goes back to like Led Zeppelin is like they're the goats, but they are kind of like the antithesis of music today. Because like even the drums, it's like I would say it's probably like clipping. And they only use John Bonham's recording technique was famous, but basically it's called the recorder man, where you mic the snare and you mic the kick, and then you have one overhead. I don't even know if you mic the snare and the kick, but anyways, the overheads, instead of being on top, like how you usually mic a drum set with those 2 mics like on the top, like getting the whole kit, instead you take one of them and you point it horizontally, and it's going to be pointed at the floor tom and the ride. Yeah. And then another one's going to be pointed like almost like straight at you with like the high tom and the crash and the snare. So that was a big part of Bonham's like signature sound. And
that makes sense because he sounds like not like kick snare, then like
it's like
crash.
Interestingly
it's like a
blended
drum kit.
Yeah,
like he's playing like a drum kit. That's what I hear.
That's the way it makes the kit sound. It makes it sound more like a drum kit. Like maybe you can't hear the snare as clear like in this one, but like you can really hear like the balance of all of them, and you can really tell like how fucking hard he's like hitting it. Yeah. And stuff, and like you get like an interesting tone.
You hear like the booms and the rings.
Yeah.
And
I've done it too. Like I've done that recorder man setup, and like for me personally, like it doesn't really like match some of the music that like I'll be making, but when I do hear it, like you can hear like how it sounds like Bonham. Like I don't know, there's something, the way that he set up the mics was a big part of his sound.
That's interesting. So yeah, so he's even like being, so they're a very innovative band.
Yeah.
In the recording studio, because playing one thing is live with them, but then in the recording studio, and it shows so much more on the second album.
Yeah. Should we move on to that one, or should we just keep talking?
We could bounce back between, whatever comes to mind.
Okay.
I haven't even like read anything off my notes.
I'll go back to the first one. Is Dazed and Confused their heaviest song?
Their heaviest song? What? So, and what in their catalog?
Let's stick to Led Zeppelin 1 and 2. You think it's the heaviest song out of the bunch?
Yeah, I guess so. That one's really like cool. Jimmy Page, like what he's just, that intro stuff he's doing with the guitar. And
yeah.
I don't know. I guess. That one's pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that would be a wrong answer.
I feel
Communication breakdown is pretty fucking heavy, especially live.
Yeah.
He's like, that guitar is fucking cranked, and he's
yeah. Yeah, it's true, and that's like more of that thrash style, like punk almost.
Yeah.
Like that, and like Immigrant Song. Immigrant Song is a good one too, where it's like just really, really heavy.
Yeah.
But that one's not on
third album.
Yeah, that one's on the third one. Anyways, so yeah, Dazed and Confused reminds me a lot of Black Sabbath. I don't know which one. I don't know the timeline of that, but I'm sure they were both heavily influenced by each other.
Simultaneously. 69, I think, both of them.
What a crazy fucking time.
Yeah, there's just like a certain amount of people who got to like catch them both,
And the Beatles.
Yeah, they probably saw the Beatles when they were like young. Yeah, that was one thing. Bob Weir, he was telling us from the famous Grateful Dead, a story. I think it was just about trying acid for the first time, but the story started with like, oh yeah, after my third Beatles concert.
Whoa.
Fucking crazy.
Jeez.
Imagine seeing.
I feel like he was being a deadhead, but for the Beatles.
Yeah, basically.
Wild.
If people were in high school during that time, just like, that's what high school was for those 4 years or whatever.
And all those people that got inspired also made great music,
Yeah.
So, yeah, sick. You Shook Me is a Muddy Waters cover from 1962.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yep. So I wanted to be sure. That
groove's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to be sure on that one. I looked up if it was a cover, and it is. And the fact that it's a Muddy Waters cover shows you where their head is at the time.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the same when we did the Beatles podcast, where it's like on their first record, like there's a ton of covers. Or on was it the second one that had all the covers?
Both of them have a good amount.
But you could just feel where their head was at the time, with Motown and some of the more rock and roll type blues. But then with Led Zeppelin, that they were into like that gritty, like fucking slow blues,
Yeah, blues.
Heavy. Yeah. So that was a cool thing that I found.
Yeah, like they don't sound like British at all.
No.
Again.
Yeah, it's funny. You almost associate them with like American music more than like Britain, but yeah, they're British as fuck.
Yeah, when Robert Plant refers to women as birds, that's when it shows like the most.
Yeah, or every time they talk.
Yes.
Oh shit, that guy's British.
Yeah, British, Japanese, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I felt that way about Christian Bale. I think he's Scottish or something, and like when he opened his mouth, I was like, this guy's not fucking American. What the fuck?
Did you know that he's in a new movie where he's Edgar Allan Poe?
Yeah, it's like a Netflix thing.
Yeah, I just heard about it. I was listening to on Shane Gillis' podcast.
I'm one of those annoying people that will look it up like on Metacritic, and if the rating is like below a 70, I won't check it out.
You can't trust that stuff nowadays. I don't trust
Rotten Tomatoes, but I still trust like some like things.
There's like, no, there will be movies that people will tell me they love. The internet will tell you they love. Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of hype trains.
And then I just see it. I was like, why is anyone why are they so excited about this?
Yeah, I feel that.
Think of like remember when the first Avengers came out? People were talking about it like it was like The Godfather or whatever.
It was pretty sick.
Sick.
Yeah, people got too excited about it, but I liked it.
I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I can't really tell you what happened in the story either. I just know Thanos. I could actually.
I don't think Thanos was in it. It was the one before Ultron.
Oh, I thought you meant the end, like the last two.
No. Those last two, the last one I didn't like. The one before that was the best.
Oh yeah,
out of all that.
The ones before the last two were fucking pretty boring.
Yeah, but those first two, like people were fucking pumped about those when they came out. Just like
yeah.
Okay, you know how like when Thanos fucking killed everyone.
Yeah.
And like that one was actually, and remember how the world was kind of like, oh wow, that movie was amazing. That's exactly like every time one of these movies have come out gets like the same reaction, and only one of them I've liked, which was that one.
You're like that episode of South Park where everything fucking Stan watches is shit. Sometimes I feel like that because I also feel that way. But we're going off on a complete tangent. But there were a lot of movies that I liked this year. There are some really cool ones, and there's some that are popular, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, that I also thought deserved the hype. It was cool.
Yeah, that one got a lot of hype. I'll have to watch it again. I love it.
I enjoyed it.
It just felt like Rick and Morty to me.
It was very Rick and Morty-ish, but in a good way.
Like random stuff kept happening, and then it was all meta. And then the part where it got to them as the rocks, and they're like, "Oh, so we're just rocks? So nothing means anything, and anything means nothing, and it's all." But we're just rocks. So be over. And I was like, "This is like interdimensional cable."
Yeah, but I like that. I like that episode of Rick and Morty, and I don't know. I enjoyed it.
I like that episode of Rick and Morty, but it was just sort of like, everything's pointless. Yeah. Doesn't that mean everything and nothing all at once?
I can admire the incredible creativity that it took to make a movie like that, and the execution is just really pretty perfect.
Yeah, it was a fucking bizarre. There was a lot happening.
There are shots in that movie where you could just press pause and it took them all day. And then there's hundreds of those.
Yeah, because they kept fucking changing.
Yeah. I
like the hot dogs on hands. The Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
I like the fight scenes. The fight scenes were fucking awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
anyways,
we're gonna cut this all out. We'll maybe just clip this into.
Why don't we just make the title Led Zeppelin and other things?
Yeah, Joe and Rana do that.
Yeah, it's fine.
Doesn't matter. You could, the music is better than what we're saying right now. So
yeah,
if you're upset, go listen to the Lead.
Turn this off and go listen to these songs that we're talking about.
Yeah. So we'll just, I don't know. Led Zeppelin 2 starts off pretty fucking crazy too.
Yeah.
Whole Lot of Love. One of the best rock songs of all time. I didn't talk about it much for the first album. Yeah, fantastic riff. Legendary riff. Legendary solo, fucking crazy interlude. There's just one thing that it happens a lot in Led Zeppelin, which because I guess I was just so young when I listened to them, I never thought about it too much, but what a strange thing for a band to do, especially like, you know, you listen to songs and a song's a song, but then they'll like fucking stop a song and
like
Jimmy
trippy
Page
interludes.
starts playing like a guitar, and he's the only one playing. He's just playing a guitar solo to himself, and then they start the song again. Or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And yeah, they do this a few times, you know, with like Moby Dick and John Bonham solo. So
Right.
that's pretty like heavy on this album. And then
That's pretty awesome. I mean, the
Yeah.
musicianship is insane.
yeah,
I think in Led Zeppelin 2, Led Zeppelin 1, it felt like more of like they're focusing like on the songs. And then if you listen like really closely, you'll hear that John Paul Jones is actually like shredding the whole entire time. But then on Led Zeppelin 2, they have more like showcases, you know, of how good they are at playing.
pretty like mature, a lot more layered. Sounds more expensive. It definitely sounds like the first one like was a success, so then they got more money. I think also released the same year.
Yeah, they're like
Bigger.
back to back almost.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot like more like clean and professional sounding. Like you said, they're probably clipping on the first album. I feel like there's less
For sure.
of that on the second one.
Yeah.
And like all the elements that Led Zeppelin is like, even including some songs that they're like most famous for, or just appear on this album with, you know, a very tasteful production by Jimmy Page, just like throwing in like rhythmic like acoustic guitars and rhythmic electric guitars, and then like acoustic guitar solos.
Mm-hmm.
And then John Paul Jones incorporating like synths and like using like, you know, during the 60s has more of like a reputation and like sound where they're using delays and stuff, and it's all very like wompy and all over the place. They're using it on this album, but it's all very clean and like precise and very like, they know how to use all that stuff very well.
Yeah. You can just hear it.
Yeah. But very big riffs. I mean, Lemon Song's amazing.
Yeah, we were just talking about how that song has a fucking gong in it.
Yeah.
Just big gong energy.
Nah, I was gonna go off on another one, but
Thank You is a really cool song. Low key song.
yes.
Really, really sick.
I mean, like I said, just like the future elements that you hear in Zeppelin's other albums are like all like in this song. It's so nice sounding. It's so, it is underrated. It's it's not on like Mothership or like any of that, huh?
No.
It's not in any of the live video DVDs that I've seen.
Yeah, I don't really see much respect put on that song, but it's a great song.
Yeah. Kurt Cobain did put respect on this album, though.
That's
Just
cool.
like in our Beatles episode, we talk about, I think the second Beatles album was on that list of his favorite albums. This one is too.
Oh,
Also,
that's cool.
second album by a band, by both of them.
Yeah, he's a second album kind of guy. What was the Nirvana's second album?
Never mind.
Was it Never? Well, there you go.
Yep.
Ramble On. Ramble On's probably like one of their most famous songs, but it's one that like I can never get tired of hearing. I think I basically could like hum that entire song. Like sometimes I just put it on when I'm playing drums and I'll just like play along to it. I'm like, oh, that's a perfect song.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably why it's one of their most famous. The dynamics.
Yep.
I don't even
Super
know
dynamic.
what.
Bass part, locked and loaded.
So do you know what John Bonham is doing in that beginning?
With that like clicky sound, honestly I've never looked it up, but I figured that he was hitting the rim.
I've seen people try to like emulate it. What that one dude I think from Led Zeppelin does, I think he throws just like another head on top of the floor tom, so he's hitting like a dead head.
Okay. Oh, by the way, Led Zeppelin. They're a cover band of Led Zeppelin in the West Coast area, and they're fucking good.
Yeah.
Like,
they're very good.
Spot on. Like, they really do it justice. Like, Fab Four level.
They've been around for a fucking minute, though. They must be fucking as old as some of the guys in Led Zeppelin. You know, yeah. I mean, obviously not, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, they're like one generation before.
yeah.
They're still grandpas. They're just not great grandpas yet.
Yeah.
But no,
yeah,
they're sick.
They're
like, I mean, that they're basically people that like studied the crafts. But anyways, yeah, like Ramble On, Weird Noise. I really like the riff that he plays like towards the end of the song. It's like the solo that's like. No, that one's sick too. No. I was thinking, I like the one that goes like. It
is, yeah.
And then it just goes right back into a verse, and I don't know why it's just so fucking catchy. It's just like perfectly. It's a perfect example of like how Jimmy Page could like, even his like, just little solo noodle things are like so melodic sometimes.
Yeah, it's a very catchy part of the song. Very big part of the song. Very Zeppelin-esque, yeah, riff-wise, yeah.
Living, Loving, Made, cool song. Heartbreaker, amazing.
Yeah, a lot of fucking big riff energy on this.
For sure. You could tell he was like egocentric. I heard that before. I was watching Pawn Stars, and some dude brought in a fucking signed copy of, I think it was Led Zeppelin 1 on vinyl, and it was signed by all four of them. And like Jimmy Page like signed it on the front, and the guy that was selling it was saying that the reason that Jimmy Page signed it on the front is because like he wanted like people to know that like that was his baby. And then Rick was like, the Pawn Star dude was like, yeah, because it's signed on the front by one of them and they're not signed by all four on the back, like he's like, I'll give you about 10% of what you want.
What? That's fucking weird.
Yeah, and then when the guy's like, fuck no, and then he's like walking out, like Rick, shows him like interviewing, and he's like, yeah, I wanted to buy it to like put it on my own wall, but like he was asking for too much money. I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wonder how much it was, but
yeah,
that's a weird reason for like the value to change, because it's almost like,
you could just spread it open and get a custom fucking case for it.
Yeah, but also like he's the producer of those albums, so his being on like loan it's kind of like, if anything, it might make it like more money.
That's what the guy was trying to say. But like they didn't, like the expert didn't buy it. He's like, nah. I think so though, and I don't know. I wouldn't mind, and I feel like any person that would drop that much fucking money like on a signed copy, like they're not gonna care. But anyways, it's just to say that Jimmy Page is a very frontal type of person, and you can kind of hear it on this album.
Yeah, hear it on all the albums.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else to add?
No, Moby Dick is like one of the best drum solos of all time, and the video of him playing it live is iconic and badass. And also, Moby Dick has a sick riff in it,
one of the most
guitar solos.
Legendary riffs.
Yeah, and sometimes it gets a little overshadowed by the most amazing drum solo in rock history, but that just deserves some respect. And Bring It On Home is also an awesome song, and yeah, that's
yeah, if your riff is gonna get, I mean, I wouldn't say it was overshadowed, but I mean, if your riff is gonna get overshadowed by anything, it might as well be one of, I mean, like the greatest drum solo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, he has a lot more riffs on this album to make up for it, for sure. And yeah, this is also where he uses the fucking theremin, which is fine, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool and all. and but some of those drony parts of like Led Zeppelin songs, like I'm not gonna say they're bad because they're fucking cool, but like that's not what I like go back to the songs for.
Yeah.
You know, my brain just starts to wander a little bit during those parts, and maybe at the time, you know, when you put that on a record and you smoke like your weak ass joint and like you just sat there, you know, with some candlelight, you're like, fuck. But like, I mean, psychedelic music has just developed to such a high level, and it's become very different, and so some of those psychedelic elements sound dated.
Yeah, that would probably be the stuff that is, most dated. Because like,
Yeah,
especially the
most
theremin,
dated.
because it kind of just makes some random crazy noise.
Yeah,
It's not really like doing anything.
like it's cool to watch. Like Led Zeppelin, like the dude will do it live, and
He brings out the theremin,
and it's
yes.
pretty cool. But like when you're listening to it on a record, you don't really get that effect.
Yeah. So, will they ever do it again?
I don't know.
They're like too old
It's
now.
impossible to say.
I don't even know what they would play.
Like, I was gonna say, would they even be good? But no, they'd be fucking good.
Yeah.
It'd sound really good. Cause Robert Plant's been singing this whole time,
Yeah, that's true.
and he sings good. And John Paul Jones has shown that he's more than capable. Like, there's like that video on YouTube of him playing the levee when the levee breaks, like recently, like within the past year, and it was like fucking awesome. And like Jimmy Page, I don't know if he's any good at guitar, so I don't even know what he does.
He fucking lives in a castle.
That's insane. He's really like not like doing anything. Like he hasn't done anything like in our whole lives.
Yeah. I mean, I have no idea as far if he like touches the guitar. He did that movie with Jack White.
Oh yeah, that's right. He did. Okay, that was like the most like. How did they convince him to do that shit?
The money.
What was that movie called?
It might get loud.
That was a pretty cool movie.
I'll have to watch it again. It's been a while.
The Edge is the weakest link, for sure.
Yeah. I would not, like, if I was the producer for that movie, I would...
I would have read The Edge. I would have been like, dude, go ask someone else. Who would you ask instead of The Edge?
Instead of The Edge. So what? It's like they try to do 3 different generations of guitar player.
Okay, so it'd have to be someone from like the 80s.
From the
That's
80s.
a tough one because like 80s music is pretty not.
It's like all
my
over
favorite.
the place. Because like, what? Metallica, as far as like uniqueness. But like, I don't even know, like, because they're all playing like each other's riffs and stuff. But I can't imagine Jimmy Page and Jack White, like James Hetfield showing them. Like,
No,
you know,
I couldn't imagine James Hetfield, but I could see it potentially working in a cool way with Kirk Hammett.
I'll disagree.
I think it could be cool.
Because
But
they're
it'd be
going
weird.
like Cashmere, and then Jack White. They're like sitting around Seven Nation Army. I think,
Yeah.
but Kirk Hammett didn't write. Oh, do you know what riff he did write though? He Enter Sandman. So I guess he could have done Enter Sandman. That's like the one that
Yeah,
like Kirk wrote.
Yeah, that's like. I don't write any songs for the band, but I wrote the most famous one.
Yeah.
I don't know who a third guitar player would be on that. That's kind of a tough fit.
80s.
Anybody but the Edge. I mean, like even Kirk Hammett would have been better than that. Well,
Who the fuck was big in the 80s?
that's what I was trying to think. And all the people that were big in the 80s were like shredders.
Eddie. Yeah.
Like they were like, I mean, that would have been cool actually. Like Eddie Van Halen, like that would have been a good fit.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been able to like
The mesh like flow.
I guess it would just have to be song
I think-
wise, because like Jimmy Page isn't a like you can't play like him either. That's the one.
Yeah.
He's like weirdly like sloppy. I never even tried playing like him, just because it's like crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's like an insane like soloer.
Trying to think of the drumming equivalent
Of it might get loud.
No. Of Jimmy Page, like the way he plays. Like it'd have to be someone who's just like going insane.
Like Keith Moon.
Yeah, Keith Moon. That's a good comparison. I don't even try to play like Keith Moon.
It like wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know, it's more
like it just doesn't work.
Like it would be more of like an emotion than like playing the notes he plays or the hits he plays. Be like having the energy of just going that nuts or something.
Yeah. It's like a vibe.
What would be a drumming? It might get loud.
Ooh, of all alive people.
Yeah, it has to be alive.
I mean, we lost Neil Peart, so I would say okay. One of them would probably be Stuart Copeland. He's still super like active and like totally
people
down
like
to do
him.
something like that. Dave Grohl, Stuart Copeland, Dave Grohl would actually be amazing. And then another one, even though they drum in different styles, they would make it work. And then the third one, who would have to be like somebody who was in the middle of them. It's kind of hard because Dave Grohl's had such a long career, but like somebody from the 80s who's still alive. Oh yeah, the dude from Genesis, Phil Collins.
Phil Collins.
That would be
very
that's
good.
there you go. There's 3 right there. That would be fucking sick.
I would. The thing about Phil Collins is that him and Stuart Copeland in the 70s and 80s, and so is Phil Collins. As far as Genesis,
True.
you know,
I guess they're kind of the same. It's just hard because Dave Grohl was like late 80s, 90s, and all the way up into now. So, but Genesis was bigger in. Never mind. The Police was also big in the 80s. I don't know.
Like around this, yeah. Dude, I would throw Lars in there, almost to fill like up the same space that Jack White would fill. Hear me out.
No, it wouldn't work.
Oh, dude. Well, I don't know how he would explain about how he comes up with his stuff, but I mean, as far as like, I mean, Jack White's like not like a clean player. He's very like expressive in songwriting, but like his Seven Nation Army to one.
This is why it wouldn't work, because Jack White has like is constantly becoming better at guitar. When Lars like peaked like in the 80s and like has been on the consistent like downside like up until now. So like his chops like in his prime, like yes,
it wouldn't be as fun to watch on.
He'd play like the same like 3 beats.
I see what you mean.
From like Metallica songs, because like he doesn't practice like anything else, and then like it just wouldn't. There's a certain like improvisational like aura and like chops you need for something like that to be cool, and that's the only reason why it wouldn't work.
That's a pretty big reason.
Yeah.
Why it wouldn't work, but I mean, yes, Stuart Copeland is like that works well. That works very well for the movie. Is there anyone even earlier?
I was trying to think that like anybody from the 60s who's still like killing it.
It could have been,
or like the 70s.
Charlie Watts.
Steve Gadd. Steve Gadd.
Who's he from?
He's done well. Yeah, that's kind of a weird one, I guess, because like he's done a lot of session work and he's played for a lot of big people. But like, I think one of the things that he's most known for is Steely Dan's Asia. He did a lot. He did like some cool, like a lot of the cool drumming on there.
Well, then you could do like him. Then you could do like Omar Hakim.
Well, yeah, that's no, but Steve Gadd's pretty like if I read you his credits, like you'd be like, what the fuck? But I guess he was never big. He was never in like a band where he was like,
yeah, he
was on Staying Alive.
Okay.
Yeah, like he was on actually.
I think it's Loot. I think he was sick when they did that song.
Oh yeah. Oh, he was actually on a lot of Bee Gees.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I like all of those songs. Yeah.
Yeah, he was on a bunch of Bee Gees and like, so he was a guy who was big in the 70s, for sure.
Okay. So that's good.
He was on Do It Again too. So he was on that Steely Dan song, which is an awesome song.
Yeah. So he's like a good session drummer.
Yep. So that might be a good one, but
all
right. Let's wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, if you've made it this far.
Yeah.
Wow.
Next one.
I don't know.
R.I.P. Crosby.